Hello, everybody. This is Walker and Elliott on
Hey,
the
everybody.
AIDS. Hey, everybody. The AIDS to Scouting. This is our season one, 15th episode, and it's kind of a season recap. And it'll be a little bit shorter than our normal podcast at this time. But we hope you'll enjoy it, and we'll give you a little idea recap of what we already have done, where we are, and what our plans are for the near future. Um, so, Elliot, I was thinking about a lot of different subjects about which we could talk, and one of them that I was going to bring up, but we'll talk next week more when we have episode one is going to be Frank Harper, and Frank is a vigil uh, member of the Order of the Era, and he's been very active in scouting, and he has a major role in the putting together of the next American Jamboree.
Hmm.
Uh, and by that same token, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about jamborees and what they mean for those who don't know, and just for all of those who do know. It's kind of a dreamed up word that Baden Powell and his colleagues came up with back in the 1900s, 1910s. And the first World Jamboree was held in London in I think 1920. I made a whole list of these things and we don't need to go over that. But guess what I've got for you, Elliot?
What?
I have right here a neckerchief that I bought at the World Jamboree in 1963.
Wow.
And I've had it all these years, and I had two of them, and this is yours. There's the emblem that we had in the 1963 World
Wow.
Jamboree, where it was held in Greece, and this is a the actual patch for the jamboree was made out of bronze because bronze was the metal that they made for armor back in the days of ancient Greece, and this is in the shape of a hoplite shield. A hoplite was the kind of the heavy infantry of the
Mhm.
Greek army, and the jamboree was at Marathon. Now, everybody listening to this, I hope, will, well, any historian will know that Marathon is where a huge Persian army was defeated by the Greeks. And that's where there was a man named Pheidippides, I think that's how it's pronounced, who ran all the way up, fought the battle all day, and then ran back to Athens to announce the victory. And that's the first, and then he died right on the spot from all that exertion. And
Mm,
that's where the marathon comes from. It was
mhm.
24 miles away from Athens.
Right.
And so anyway, so this is it, and it's got the little badges of the various world jamborees that were held. I believe this is the first one that was at the Crystal Palace in London, and then there was one in Austria. See, that's what 1951. Uh, there was a there they've been just all over. They've been about
Wow.
every 4 years, except for a break during World War II,
Hmm.
and 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 then since Greece, my young older son, went to one in the Netherlands in
Wow.
1995, and then the next World Jamboree was in Chile, and my younger son went there.
Wow.
And then I went to the one. I met a really nice Swedish guy who I think we're going to get on this program within. I talked to him today. It's
Hmm.
amazing how we can call each other and talk on the phone these days without even any long distance calling, and we can see each other. So he and I talked today, and I met him in 1963. And I went to there in 1966. I hitchhiked up to Montreal, and then from Bremerhaven in Germany all the way to the north part of Sweden, and then we went to a scout camp and hiking in Lapland, and then in 2019, his granddaughter was coming to the World Jamboree in West Virginia, and so I just had to get off my tail and put on my Baden Powell costume and get on up to West Virginia and be part of what was a wonderful event. This is the shoulder patch I got from that. And so you can see that's the 24th World Scout Jamboree. And it was
Mhm.
hosted not just by the United States, but also by Mexico and Canada. And it was a great experience for me and for all the scouts who came to it. Uh,
Wow.
yes. So that's kind of an introduction to the whole jamboree idea, and they're all over. I'm hoping to go at this point to go to the one that will be in Poland. I
Mhm.
believe that's in 27, but I'll find out on that.
I would love to attend something like that. That would be incredible. Maybe
Oh,
that'll be in my cards sometime soon.
wh-
But actually, luckily, to a couple of wonderful sponsors, my oldest daughter will be attending the National Jamboree, the American National Jamboree, in 2026. In fact, just yesterday, we received a newsletter about the contingent. Our council doesn't quite have enough to do a contingent, a full-fledged contingent from the Flint River Council, unfortunately. But the scouts who have really wanted to attend are able to combine a contingent with a council in Tennessee. I can't remember the exact one right this second because I'm not looking at the newsletter, but
yep.
they're actually going to have their first meeting at the aquarium, the Tennessee Aquarium, in January. They'll all be meeting each other for the first time. Well, not all of them. Some of them have already, of course, know each other from the council.
Yes,
But we're going to go to the aquarium, have a nice day there, and they're going to get sorted into patrols and elect leadership for the contingent. So we're looking forward to that. And, we're me and my wife Melody and our oldest is going to all get together and make a little three-way road trip there and have a good time. So,
that sounds like a great time. And that's have you been to that aquarium before?
yes, I was very young, and
Yeah.
I'm so Atlanta that I'm stuck on knowing the Georgia Aquarium's one of the best in the world.
Well, yeah, but that one up there is kind of
Yes.
interesting because you start off at the top,
Hmm.
and it's like an Appalachian rainforest up there,
Hmm.
and so there's water that drips off of the leaves into a little tiny stream, and then that becomes more the size of a creek, and then something like the Tennessee River, and so in the Tennessee River you have their kind of fish and all in that, and then you have where the I guess the ocean, and so you have a saltwater thing down at the bottom, and I think it's a great aquarium for the people in the world that are listening to this. It's we have a lot of interesting things here in the South to see, and I know that at the World Jamboree, uh, just there were 35,000 scouts from all over the world, and the theme of the song of the theme song was West Virginia, the kind of that country western song about
Hmm.
"Take Me Home."
Country Roads by
Yeah,
John Denver.
oh yeah, and they would sing it, and they really loved it. When
That's actually even without the jamboree, since I was very young in Scouts, before the Bechtel Reserve.
yes,
That was always been a song that all of the troops could sing together. Everybody knows that song, or down here in the South at least, and
yeah,
in my
yeah,
councils and my camps that I've attended and staffed at for several years. Another thing that I wanted to add, speaking of staffing things, that my oldest just got hired for the Polaris Winter Camp adventure at Camp Thunder, and we'll be attending the staff development very soon, and then working on staff there for the first. It'll be her first staff experience.
that's great. That's
Yes.
great.
I'm
Um,
super excited, but I know that if she's anything like me, which I know that she is going to get a real kick out of it, and I may lose her to the council, just like my parents lost me to the council.
well,
I was
well,
there every other weekend at that point after my first staff experience because it's such a great experience. So when you're 14, you could be a counselor in training at 14, and then at 15, in some cases you can get paid or you can volunteer, and 16 you can work there and get paid for it, which is cool too. But as every volunteer in Scouts knows, it is a labor of love. So even if you're getting paid to be on staff somewhere, you're still working because you love it. That's
well,
that's the payment.
You know, that's how it is for scouters all over the world.
All over the world.
All over the world. I meet them at the World Jamboree. It was such a thrill to meet these adult leaders who just took 2 weeks out of their lives to travel to this other country. I mean, they enjoyed it, but they were busy all day long. We were quite busy and had to do a lot of walking and all that. The Bechtel Reserve is quite the place.
Hmm.
And it's, the jamborees for years would be in different places, but now they've kind of settled on Bechtel, and the Americans are so well organized.
Hmm.
The way they have they have all the tents and all the swimming facilities, and everything is just arranged so well that it's very impressive.
Hmm.
Um, the so I'm really glad that she's going to be able to do that. But what I want for people to understand all over the world is this is how it is all over the world. My best friend in Sweden, his son is still a scoutmaster, even though his children have mostly grown out of it. He's still a scoutmaster, and and he's going to be on our podcast, I think. But of course, there's a 6 hour difference, so either you and I are going to have to get up early, or they're going to have to stay up late, or we're going to have to do it on a Sunday, so that
I'm sure we'll figure it out.
yeah, we'll figure that out. And
That's
then
we've actually got a lot to look forward to for our upcoming season.
yes,
Hmm.
we have Frank Harper next week, and
Hmm.
then we've talked to the head scout executive in Kenya, and
Hmm.
I'm very interested in getting an update of what's going on in Kenya and in other African countries. As most people listening to this podcast probably know, that's where Baden Powell ended his life. He died in 1941 and is buried outside about 30 miles outside of Nairobi, as I recall it.
Hmm.
And the name of his place was called Pax for peace.
Hmm.
And of course, World War II was raging then, and it was, that was always a big disappointment to him, that these boys who had been uh, scouts together from different countries, some of them ended up on the opposite sides of battlefronts. Of course, one thing that a lot of kids don't realize, and even adults don't realize, is that totalitarian countries like Germany became in the 1930s banned scouting because scouting does not represent totalitarian values. It represents the individual, and it helps the individual scout uh, work with their own opinions, their own independence, their own skills. And so, in Germany, they banned the scouting, and they went to Hitler Youth, where
Hmm.
all trained just from the earliest ages to be warriors. And then in the Soviet Union, they had something called the Komsomols, or the Young Communists, and that was kind of the same sort of thing.
Hmm.
Uh, and then Red China, I believe, does not have any scouts either.
So the country's governments dismissed scouting as a as something that was appropriate for young people. Cut
Well, they
ties with it.
no, they dismiss it as because it inculcates independence,
Mm.
independent thinking, free thinking, world brotherhood, and if you're trying to put together an army, you want them to hate everybody in the world and all that sort
Mhm.
of stuff, and be paranoid. And that was one of the things that the whole jamboree system, whether it be national or international jamborees or gatherings, is to have people come together and realize that, hey, we're all just scouts together, and we all have a common scout law. We have a world brotherhood. Is in the scout, it says the scout's friendly. He's a friend to all and a brother to every other scout,
Mhm.
and that means all over the world. And that's what people discover when they're at these jamborees.
Well, that's what an experience to be able to do something like that. That'd be cool.
Well, you're helping that, and then your daughter will be going, and
Mhm.
it's gonna, and you'll probably end up going to either that one or another one sometime soon enough.
We'll
Uh,
see. We'll
that's
see.
right. We'll
I'm
see.
not done scouting, not even close.
No,
I have big plans as far as what I'd like to do professionally. It's just not in my That's not in the cards at the moment,
well, there you
unfortunately.
go. But it already is. Look what you're doing. You are doing scouting right now. That's what aids to scouting is, and we're you and I are in. I hope are encouraging thousands, if not millions, of people all over the world. That's our plan. That's our goal for this, and we want people that are listening to go to our Facebook page or Aids to Scouting. We want them to tell their friends about what we're doing. If they listen to one of our issues about one of the topics we've covered that they really think other people ought to listen to, then they should share that. Um, I I keep thinking about that one that we did on wilderness first aid, and
Yes,
how we need to. Uh, Everybody should listen to that. And even if you're not ever going to go out in the wilderness, you should know about first aid. Everybody should.
I
And
agree with that. I also want to let our listeners know about something. As you can see, my eyes are traveling right this moment because I
yes,
am looking up something that's coming up. Our friend David McLaughlin, who we had on the podcast,
yes,
I wonder how long that was in July 18th. That's when that one came out.
okay.
There is actually coming up from the Flint River Council, which I know we've got several listeners. A lot of our audience right now is from the Flint River Council because support starts at home. There is a training coming up. Uh, just a moment, and I'll find it. I will find it. It's coming up. I believe it's in March for that wilderness survival class. I'm
It's
almost there.
it's a long weekend, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, wilderness first aid. It's April 10th through the 12th. And you can go to flintrivercouncil.org, and on the homepage, if you scroll down, it'll give you a link to register to the 2026 Wilderness First Aid class that's actually run by Mr. McLaughlin.
Oh, he's quite the United States expert, one
Yeah.
of them in
Hmm.
that subject. And I believe the scouts say that if you're going to go, they want a certain number or percentage of adult leaders to have that certification training. You know,
Yes.
the scouts try to have proper certification for the really important issues. One of which, of course, is first aid, and they want to make sure that kids learn to do the really important things, whether it be heavy bleeding, uh, rescue breathing, you name it. Those kind of really serious injuries that scouts are often called upon to deal with. And then they have certification for the marksmanship people and the
Hmm.
firearms people.
And
When I was
actually, and also as a sorry to interrupt, but
No, it's fine.
as a troop committee member for my home troop,
Yes.
there is a need right now for IOLS trained leaders because you have to have an IOLS trained leader at your overnight scout outings. You must have at least one. And what IOLS is, it's Introduction to Outdoor Leadership Skills. Uh,
Mhm.
I have not done that yet as an adult, but I've got, of course, I have plenty of experience of helping staff those IOLS for those adults when I was younger, which was
Yes.
funny. So now I'm going to go attend one and refresh all my knowledge and information on outdoor leadership skills.
That sounds great. One thing is that scouting does is it, of course, gets the children, the scouts, and even the Cub Scout level, and gives them beginner experience in leadership itself, which
Hmm.
is we've talked about this on several of our podcasts so far. But I notice when I look at various international postings, I see that very issue coming up all the time. Is the young people getting leadership experience, and it's so important. I know that, for example, I have some musical interests and talents, and if I try to help somebody else learn how to play, for example, the bagpipe, it helps me be a better bagpiper. Oh, look at that! I see your guitar there.
There's three of them hanging on the wall right next to me.
Well,
That was
maybe
funny.
you should play an intro. for us, and or an EXO. What do you
I've
call it?
right now we're sporting some really wonderful piping music from the attendance that I had at your at the Burns Club.
Oh,
Yeah,
tell people about that. We went to
it
the
is.
Burns Club, and that's
It's
the
a interesting. It's an interesting replica stone building of the place where the Scottish poet Robert Burns. That's his name, right? Robert.
yep,
Right? Yep,
yep.
Robert Burns. It's a replica building of where he grew up in Scotland, and it's a lot of guys, gentlemen who are interested in poetry and interested in camaraderie and friendship with other people who like Robert Burns poetry and other Scottish poets. But if you don't know who Robert Burns is, he is to Scotland what Shakespeare is to England. So he would be their national bard, is what they call it. It's a poet, musician, author, you know, entertainer of a literary entertainer, I guess is a good way to describe him. Without knowing it, a lot of people will actually might know some of the stories that Robert Burns told without knowing that Robert Burns told those stories, which is interesting.
It is.
Hmm.
Last weekend, I was the guest speaker at the St. Andrews Society in
Hmm.
Savannah. And the St. Andrews is the patron saint of Scotland. And so the St. Andrews Society was formed in about 1735 down in Savannah, and then they still meet. And so I spoke uh, on Scottish culture and kind of uh, congratulated them on their preservation, but then reminded them that they have a duty to not only to preserve Scottish culture, but to enhance and spread it. And I think that that's true of Burns, and it's true of any culture. If your culture out there has some stuff that really needs to be preserved, whether it be linguistic or just historical stuff or pride in the nation, then that's something that I think scouting helps do. Uh, it helps have a framework where people can talk about their history and preserve it, and then the world has a lot of distractions for people, and I think a lot of parents realize that their children may be distracted or even led down the wrong and terrible pathways. And so scouting gives a framework where you can say, let's go down this road and let's have a scout law and let's have a scout oath and let's have leadership training and let's have outdoor adventures. Uh, that's, I think that's so important. And uh, children have to be involved with their parents if they're going to have a good life. And there are other adult leaders too that are good, decent people who have their best interests at heart.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with all those things.
Yeah.
I There was
You know,
something else I wanted
go
to
ahead.
mention, but I forgot about it. So, well, it'll come back. It'll bite.
Well, as part of my speech, by the way, we had one of our original ones that Elliott and I had was on communications,
Mhm.
and well, what else? How did we phrase that,
Public
Elliott?
speaking,
Public speaking.
communications, and public speaking. Those are two of the merit badges available, and we touched on some of the requirements, and really just put our own twist and our own bits of advice and stories in.
Well, for my thing Saturday night, I
Mhm.
considered it what's called an oration rather than a mere speech, which an oration sounds arrogant or bombastic, but that's what it was called for on the occasion. So I'm a good public speaker. I've been doing it all my life and I'm getting kind of old, but I looked up on the internet, how do you give a good oration? What's a good and I had some suggestions which I followed, and
Mhm.
I wrote it down in like size 18 font, and I double spaced it so that I could read it, and I had it printed and I practiced it. And I
Mhm.
also practiced it with a stopwatch so that I didn't go too long. My rule number one on public speaking is don't abuse a captive audience.
Mhm.
But in the course of all this, I talked about how Scots people have a reputation of being very thrifty or even tightwads. And for those of you in the world, a tightwad means a person who's almost unnaturally careful with his money and his possessions. But I quoted, "A scout is thrifty," and I said to them, to this group, I said, "Listen to the eighth point of the Scout law. A scout is thrifty. He does not wantonly destroy property. He works faithfully, wastes nothing, and makes the best use of his opportunities. He saves his money so that he may pay his own way, be generous to those in need, and helpful toward worthy objects. He may work for pay, but must not receive tips for courtesies or good turns." And then I said, "Well, if that wasn't written by a Scot, we can still say it could have been." And I talked about one of the great Scotsmen that came to this country as a lad with little money, some family, but was Andrew Carnegie. And through thrift and hard work, he built up a big fortune in this country. And then he gave almost all of it away to build libraries all over the country, including two down there in Savannah. And
Wow.
and so we can all think with gratitude about where thrift builds wealth, but that allows generosity and charity to take place. And the charity that comes from us, not from us voting for a government to take from other people and put it where we want it to go, but rather comes from us as a people.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that was my 11th commandment. The 11th commandment, I said, of the Scots was, "Thou shalt not waste."
Mm-hmm. So you enjoyed the oration down at the St. Andrew's Society then.
Well, it's not so much that I enjoyed it, but I think the audience enjoyed it,
Well,
and,
good.
and I wanted them to, and yet I wanted to challenge them with that whole idea of going forth
Mm-hmm.
and preserving culture. I think often about my friends that live in countries like Sweden or someplace like that who the whole thrust of modern development goes toward uh, people speaking English or maybe Chinese or one of the major languages. And when we do that in a small country, they have a literature that goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years. And and no no people want to lose their literature and their songs of ancient times and olden times. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's one of the great things about Robert Burns when he wrote Old Lang Syne. It's in Lowland Scots. And so Old Lang Syne means, basically it means the good old days or the old times. And
Mm-hmm.
so uh, at our club, we always get around and we sing Old Lang Syne at the end of each meeting. And we did that the other night down in Savannah. And it's probably the most famous song in the world. And it was written by a Scot. What about you, Elliott? Do you think that what are we going to talk about? We've got coming up. I hope we're going to have the man from Kenya,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to have next week. We'll have Frank,
Well,
and
we'll record it next week, but
yes,
let's. I also wanted to tell the audience now. We just had obviously we didn't have our show last week due to Thanksgiving because we're Americans and we celebrate Thanksgiving here, and tend to not work unless you're at some gas station or something. But um, uh, I planned. Well, I planned. I said we plan to pick up season two, episode one, the first Thursday after Christmas. And that our episode one will be with Frank Harper, and we'll discuss a lot about National Jamboree and World Jamboree, and kind of get more into the details and the activities and what a deeper version of the experience there, because everybody didn't dress up like Baden Powell and do it, you know.
no, and I also when I was at the World Jamboree, I on the way back, I rode back or gave a ride to Inez Ortega, who lives here in
Yes.
Peachtree City, and she travels all around the world in support of Scouting and the Catholic Church,
Hmm.
and she's of course fluent in Spanish, and so she's she goes everywhere, and we're going to have her on some evening, and that'll be
Mhm.
I'm really looking forward to that. And
Mhm.
I'm sort of hoping that each one of you out there listening to us or watching these on us on YouTube will uh, will friend us, or what do people do to spread the word, Elliot?
Well, they'd subscribe to us on YouTube. They'd follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram. All of it is AIDS to Scouting, AIDS to Scouting. You can find us just about anywhere. We're even on TikTok, but I haven't really ventured too deeply into that yet. But I will. I will.
That sounds good. I believe, should we mercifully end this tonight, or is there anything else that you'd like to make sure that people know? Oh, I'd like for people to bear in mind that I do have a website. It's walkerchandler.com. And
Hmm.
if you go there, you can see things like uh, one of the Baden Powell presentations I did. And you can also see a presentation I made on giving of writing poetry and presenting poetry. And I thought it was quite a good lecture. That was at both of those were at the Burns Club. And and then also some books I've written, and novels and poetry books I've written. But if and also there will be links to these aids to scouting things that can be found through there
Absolutely. Yeah,
too.
and they'll also I'm going to put in a link to the wilderness first aid training that's coming up.
Oh,
I'm going to
please.
put a link to that. I'm going to put a link to the World Scout Jamboree website. And I'm going to put a link to a Rod Stewart version of Auld Lang Syne.
Now that sounds great, lad. That
Um,
sounds ripping. Oh, I like that. That's great, especially if. Oh, yeah.
Another
My
thing I'd
heart.
like to do is I'd like to give another thank you to Trisha, to David, to James Collette, Bill Baldwin, John Mons, Molly Englehart, Gordon Rogers, Southside Al or Al Bauer, and of course, Chuck Brasfield and Matt Culverhouse. Those are our latest guests. I want to just extend another public thank you to those people for graciously sharing their time with us and their stories and their experiences in scouting and other things.
Right. All right, everybody. Good night. Tune in and join in.
We'll see you after Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.